Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And you're not new, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And today it is Monday Mass Reactions. And I'm sorry, like this schedule for this week has been off hand starting from, well, not for this week, but like starting from Saturday. It went kind of off hand, so I didn't post a video, but I will be posting a special Saturday video for today to make up for it. And so yeah, that means I'm going to be having 3 videos coming out today. Wait, no, not 3, 2. Yeah, 2 videos coming out today. So yeah, we're gonna be reacting to
Gary is
character conspiracy number 3, the Gary alien theory by Spot. Make sure you go subscribe to him. Let's start this. It's a 17-minute video, so get your snacks. Let's start it. Get your snacks, get your drinks. Let's do this.
Gary is weird. Despite being a snail, he's easily one of the smartest characters in the entire show. Like, he can read, he can put out a fire, he can even talk. And that's just scratching the surface. But how does he do these things while almost no other snails can? Well, it might have something to do with Gary not really being a snail. So join me as we dive into the Gary theory.
Part 1, Gary is smart.
So we all know Gary is really smart, but I don't think you guys realize just how smart he really is. He does normal things like use earplugs in the episode Squeaky Boots, or bark on opposite day in the episode Opposite Day. These are normal things that he probably learned on his own or SpongeBob taught him. But then he also does these weirdly smart things on his own. Like in the episode Boating School, SpongeBob failed his test at the end of the episode after admitting he was cheating. When he left the boating school, Gary was just there on his bike. SpongeBob had thrown away his bike earlier that episode because he was so confident he would get his license. But Gary not only found it, but he also drove it there, without legs. Remember this moment because it's gonna be important later.
How did he do that?
If that wasn't enough, Gary showed his brains could be used sneakily in the episode Gary Takes a Bath, when he had to take a bath.
Oh no, none of that. Come on! No.
Basically, in the episode, SpongeBob wanted to bathe Gary, but he kept running away. With all his shenanigans, he eventually got stuck in a tree. But he proved his smarts by escaping SpongeBob using a record player. After escaping, he removed the ladder so SpongeBob couldn't climb back down.
What?
Now, if you think that's impressive, this snail can also draw. In the episode Gary in Love, he was caught drawing some snail he was in love with named Mary. Damn, he's down bad for her. I feel him though. Now, a drawing snail is already impressive. But remember when I mentioned he could read? Yeah, that comes up in episodes like The Abrasive Side and Library Cards. What's crazy in the episode The Abrasive Side is that when Gary realizes that SpongeBob can't stand up for himself, he goes through a book, finds the janitorial supplies, and orders them on the phone. Now, he is just meowing, like he doesn't speak any actual words, but it's still impressive. It's also confusing considering we've seen Gary speak before. In the episode The Secret Box, Gary said this. No. He also wrote a poem in Culture Shock, but that was just meowing, so it doesn't count. So if Gary has such little vocabulary, then how is he smarter than other snails?
Yeah,
After all, we've heard a lot of them talk. In episodes like Gary in Love or Have You Seen This Snail, snails are casually talking. Gary just meows. Well, it's actually pretty simple. It's all about perspective. See, when the snails are talking, the story is portrayed from Gary's perspective. Because he's a snail, he understands what they're saying, and so we understand it. For example, look at this moment in the episode Gary in Love. When Gary goes into the store, the bad guys follow him and start to harass the cashier. But when the snail talks to him, he's meowing, not speaking. This was from the fish's perspective, so he couldn't understand them. But the second the perspective changed back to the snails, he was speaking in perfect English.
just trying to pull a fast one, fellas. Why don't we give it a taste of our special brand of swift justice?
And the same happens in everyone's favorite Season 4 episode, Have You Seen the Snail? Basically, when Gary is running away from the old lady, he bumps into a snail he met earlier. At this point, the snail is speaking perfect English because the story is from Gary's perspective. But when he...
I cannot wait to watch the finish Stranger Things.
But when he puts the snail in front of Grandma, she doesn't understand what it's saying. She doesn't answer any of the questions it's asking. Basically, it's kind of like Pokemon where the people can't understand the snails, but the snails sorta understand the people. Now, if you thought Gary sorta speaking was crazy, we've just scratched the surface of how smart Gary really is. Like, did you know he can cook? In the episode Krabby Land, he cooks for SpongeBob. Supposedly the best fry cook in the ocean. Honestly, if my pets cooked for me, I'm never cooking again. He can also do a bunch of cool tricks in the episode Treats. He was actually smart enough to learn these on his own because there's no way SpongeBob taught him some of these. But that's not even the highlight moment of this episode. At the end, Gary uses old pictures to emotionally manipulate SpongeBob for more treats. Like, how does he even know what that is? Speaking of emotions, he also wrote a goodbye letter which he left in Have You Seen This Snail? Now, he wasn't writing in any legible language or whatever, but he was still smart enough to write one. But now, we get to some of the smartest things Gary has ever done. Let's start with the episode Pineapple Invasion. To make it simple, Gary made a Home Alone type of plan to stop Plankton from stealing the formula. This dude thought everything through, and in the end, he did beat Plankton. He also took on this crazy ugly monster in the episode A Pal for Gary. What's crazier is he actually used a whip. But by far, the smartest and most competent thing Gary has ever done is drive. Yes, a snail got his license before you. In episodes like Tutor Sauce, Pineapple RV, and Student Driver Survivor, Gary's just casually driving a boat like it's nothing. What's crazier is people are trusting Gary at the wheel like he's not a snail. Now, Gary being this smart actually makes sense because in the episode Hello Bikini Bottom, SpongeBob reveals that he's been saving up for Gary's college fund for years. So it's pretty obvious that Gary is really, really smart. But here's the bigger issue. What's so special about Gary that he's smarter than everyone else? Well, it might have something to do with his secret identity.
Secret identity? Gary's secret identity.
So one thing I don't see enough people talk about is how different Gary is. Apart from being super smart, he's also just really mysterious. Like, take the episode Once Bitten as an example. In the episode, Gary has a splinter, so he goes around biting everyone. At the end of the episode, the doctor takes out the splinter, and it's massive. You're telling me the snail just casually survived this boat-sized splinter? Something about him just isn't normal.
Yeah,
and we get a major hint to this in the episode Patty Caper. In the episode, while SpongeBob and Patrick are confronting Gary about stealing the secret ingredient, he mentions something interesting.
You snuck up behind me and did what any snail could do. You shot corrosive acid from your tear ducts.
Now, I know SpongeBob said every snail can do that, but we've never actually seen another snail shoot corrosive acid out of their eyes. The only time we see this happen is in SpongeBob's imagination. Since SpongeBob is literally imagining this, it makes sense that the acid wasn't real, but a metaphor for how different Gary is. Everything SpongeBob...
No. Imagination theory. My bad. I couldn't help myself.
SpongeBob said is symbolic for something. So then, what exactly is SpongeBob trying to tell us? Well, one season later, we get a huge clue. In the season 7 episode Whelk Attack, SpongeBob reveals that he finds Gary creepy.
Gary can be a little creepy.
And this makes one thing clear. SpongeBob doesn't actually claim that Gary and other snails can shoot acid out of their eyes. He's trying to rationalize Gary's weird abilities by projecting them onto all snails. He's normalizing Gary because he doesn't know how else to explain him. And he's not crazy to do this. Like I mentioned, Gary is different and SpongeBob sees a majority of it, so it's understandable for him to think that this is normal. Like in the episode Pineapple Invasion, he just casually replaces his eye. SpongeBob sees stuff like this and thinks it's normal. But everything he's done up to this point pales in comparison to what he does in the episode Gary Takes a Bath. After fighting with SpongeBob for what seems like to be an hour over bath time, SpongeBob finally gets Gary over the bathtub. But instead of falling into the tub, Gary just casually floats for a second and then teleports away.
Bro,
that's
what?
not just weird or creepy,
No.
for the bathtub. But instead of falling into the tub, Gary just casually floats for a second and then teleports away. That's not just weird or creepy, it's downright impossible. At this point, it's clear that Gary isn't just unusual, he's something out of place. And Gary himself actually confirms this in the episode Sleepy Time. Basically, SpongeBob goes into his dream, and inside the dream, Gary is this super tall talking genius. But Gary mentions something very interesting when SpongeBob questions his ability to talk.
We speak car, so you don't have to.
I hate Taz.
What makes a post-university person? Post people don't have time to waste. They want to move their career forward. Post people don't have money to waste. They want a good education at a great value. Are you a post person? Find out at post.edu.
Gary, you can talk.
In dreams, one is not tethered by earthly limitations.
Did you catch that? In his dream, Gary says that he's not tethered by earthly limitations. This is huge. He's showing us what he can really do, abilities that are far beyond a normal snail. But in normal life, he keeps this hidden. He's disguised among snails without being able to reveal his full potential. It sounds like he's hiding very well, but every now and then we see him slip up. Like in the episode Your Shoes Untied, he reveals something he has that no other snail has: legs. And do you remember what Gary did in the episode Boating School that we just couldn't understand? Not only do his legs explain how he rode a bike, but it also shows more of Gary's powers that he's been hiding. So if he's
He's an alien!
like the Atlanteans, the jellyfish aliens at the end of Spongehenge, or even the literal aliens in the episode Farmer Bob. But there's one more alien in the show that resembles Gary so well, it's almost creepy. In the episode Planet of the Jellyfish, we're introduced to the Jellian leader. Now, it may enslave jellyfish, but it resembles a snail more than anything else. Like, it walks on tentacles instead of floating. It also has teeth unlike a jellyfish. But the biggest piece of evidence by far is the snail eyes. These are the exact same eyes that snails like Gary have. And when you start to compare him to Gary, it only gets creepier. Like, both of these two are crazy powerful. Gary's smart, strong, and basically has powers. On the other hand, the leader has his own powers like controlling beings. He's also pretty strong considering the only thing that can beat him is mayonnaise. They also both similarly have been hiding in the shadows.
Seriously?
Gary himself said that he's disguised, and the Jellian leader had been clearly hiding and converting jellyfish for ages. I'm not saying they're the same species or anything, more of, they're similar in more ways than one. And by far, the biggest similarity between them is that they're both evil.
What?
So it sounds crazy to say, but Gary is actually evil, but he hides it really well. Most of the time, it looks like he's just a rebel, but if you look closer, all of this is building to something much darker.
What is it?
And we actually see early signs in the episode Grooming Gary. Basically, in the episode, Gary gets sick of the pet contest and gives a speech for the pets to rebel. Now this isn't necessarily evil, but it's the first sign that Gary isn't just a normal pet. He's a leader, a rebellious one. It's the earliest glimpse of Gary's desire to rally against their owners. And this only escalates in the Patrick Star Show episode, The Patrick Star Show After Dark. In the episode, Gary starts a rebellion with the other pets to take down their masters. He also gives a speech on how they've been oppressed.
What? I'm kind of confused.
Gary is weird. Despite being a snail, he's easily one of the smartest characters in the entire show. Like, he can read, he can put out a fire, he can even talk. And that's just scratching the surface. But how does he do these things while almost no other snails can? Well, it might have something to do with Gary not really being a snail. So join me as we dive into the Gary theory. So we all know Gary is really smart, but I don't think you guys realize just how smart he really is. He does normal things like use earplugs in the episode Squeaky Boots, or bark on opposite day in the episode Opposite Day. These are normal things that he probably learned on his own or SpongeBob taught him. But then he also does these weirdly smart things on his own. Like in the episode Boating School, SpongeBob failed his test at the end of the episode after admitting he was cheating. When he left the boating school, Gary was just there on his bike. SpongeBob had thrown away his bike earlier that episode because he was so confident he would get his license. But Gary not only found it, but he also drove it there, without legs. Remember this moment because it's gonna be important later. If that wasn't enough, Gary showed his brains could be used sneakily in the episode Gary Takes a Bath, when he had to take a bath. Basically, in the episode, SpongeBob wanted to bathe Gary, but he kept running away. With all his shenanigans, he eventually got stuck in a tree. But he proved his smarts by escaping SpongeBob using a record player after a pet contest and gives a speech for the pets to rebel. Now this isn't necessarily evil, but it's the first sign that Gary isn't just a normal pet. He's a leader, a rebellious one. It's the earliest glimpse of Gary's desire to rally against their owners, and this only escalates in the Patrick Star Show episode, The Patrick Star Show After Dark. In the episode, Gary starts a rebellion with the other pets to take down their masters. He also gives a speech on how they've been oppressed for too long. This wasn't just a rebellion, he was leading an army to take down their masters, but it got cut short because it was time for food. And here, we learn what Gary really thinks. He hates the masters and wants to take over.
Too long have we pets been at your beck and call, subjugated to the will of those who call themselves master.
But what's crazy is that his dream actually comes true in the episode Gary's Got Legs. Basically, in the episode, Gary gets legs and hands, and so he starts to pamper SpongeBob to the point where he can't use his hands or legs. But instead of helping SpongeBob get back to normal, he just domesticates him. Like he ends up making SpongeBob his pet and he becomes the owner. The exact same thing he preached during the rebellion. And this isn't even a one-off situation. In the Sponge Out of Water movie, Gary goes back to his revolutionary ideas. After SpongeBob and Plankton run away, they go to SpongeBob's house to get Gary on their team. But Gary has become the king of all snails and refuses to listen to SpongeBob. He literally made his dreams into reality once again. Now everything he's done up to this point, it's pretty clear that he hates pet owners and doesn't want to be a pet. Every chance he gets, he leads revolution against their masters. On the surface, he sounds like a good guy, standing up for pets' rights. And he's not even a snail. But we've seen what his dream looks like in reality, and it's not exactly better than what they have right now. He's not some saint who's come to fix everything. He wants to take over, ruthlessly. And there's one final piece of evidence in this theory that confirms this all.
What is it?
In the season 11 episode Chatterbox Gary, SpongeBob buys a collar that translates what Gary says. And while they're talking, Gary reveals his dream.
What do you dream about?
Mostly, I dream I'm flying above it all, while I breathe fiery destruction upon my enemies.
think it's pretty clear who he's talking about.
Why is my thing lagging so much? Did the wind knock out the internet or something? Look, what is this lag? Why is it lagging? Like, why is it lagging so much?
Talking about his enemies are the owners. That's what he wants to breathe fire down on. And when you start to look at his ambitions, it almost sounds like we've seen this before. That's right, the Jellian leader. As if these guys are already not similar enough, they have two more things in common. Not only do they want to become the leader of a species, but they also both want to take over Bikini Bottom. We already know what Gary wants, but the Jellian leader was very similar in his goals.
I am here to replace you and all of your kind.
They both wanted to take over. But why hasn't Gary made his dreams into a reality? After all, this is the same guy that can teleport. And he's not even a snail, he's an alien. You seriously can't tell me he's not capable of doing something like this. Well, it turns out, he's already started. You think his revolutions in episodes like Grooming Gary and the Patrick Star Show episode were failures? No, it was all calculated. He's manipulating everyone like he did SpongeBob in the episode Treats. He can't just go around destroying the pet owners of Bikini Bottom and expect the pets not to hate him. So, he has to instill them with his revolutionary ideas. Once they agree with him, he can get rid of the owners and become the king of all pets. And that's why as the show goes on, the pets seem to act on their own accord. In episodes like Gary and Spot or A Place for Pets, the pets seem to be independent of their owners, all because of Gary's influence. He's been playing mind games, putting the pets against their owners in little bursts to one day control all the pets in Bikini Bottom. All in all, Gary is a genius snail who wants to control the pets of Bikini Bottom. He's been taking his time, putting the pets against their owners so he can destroy them and take over as the pet king. We saw what he was capable of in the SpongeBob movie In a Time of Crisis, where he became the Snail King. And it's no secret, he's already trying to make his dreams into a reality.
Clap it up. That was a good...
Gary is...
Alright, clap it up. That was a good theory. Make sure you like